There are rules in policing, procedures, training modules, briefings, scenarios played out in sterile classrooms and dusty parking lots. Officers prepare for the worst: violent suspects, hostage takers, mental health crises spiraling out of control. But sometimes nothing prepares them. Sometimes it's not a bank robbery or a carjacking. Sometimes it's a trainee walking into work with a rifle. Sometimes it's a teenager with a revolver who thinks it's all a joke. Sometimes it's the second before a routine traffic stop turns into a life-or-death shootout. And it's in those moments, the ones that no training can fully capture, that we see what these men and women are really made of. This is what happens when cops face the unexpected. We open on a series of slow-motion shots. A patrol car slicing through the night with lights flashing, a tense officer approaching a shadowed doorway, a body cam view of a man suddenly drawing a gun. There's training, there's protocol, there's what officers are taught to expect. Cut to dash cam footage of a routine traffic stop turning into a gunfight. But no badge, no briefing, no academy course can ever prepare them for what happens next. Footage slows to a freeze frame of an officer mid-action, gun raised, eyes wide. Tonight, we bring you real stories, caught in real time, where everything goes sideways in a split second. Cut to 5 rapid shots. A woman with a rifle in a FedEx facility, a teenage girl pointing a revolver, a wounded officer crawling for cover. This is what happens when cops face the unexpected. It was a quiet night inside the fluorescent-lit FedEx hub on the western edge of Miami. The smell of cardboard and diesel clung to the air, while workers shuffled around sorting late shipments and sealing crates for overnight transport. Senior staffer Cara Dominguez sat at her desk, tapping through logs, tracking delays, and mentoring a new hire, Juliana Perez, 22, soft-spoken and punctual, with a spotless work record and calm demeanor. But that calm was deceptive. At 7:42 p.m., Juliana walked into the sorting bay with her satchel slung over one shoulder. She didn't speak. She didn't blink. She calmly reached inside the bag and pulled out a hunting rifle. Cara looked up and froze. Without a word, Juliana raised the rifle and pulled the trigger. Click. A misfire. Cara bolted, the adrenaline kicking in. She darted outside, heart hammering, and radioed for help, ducking behind a delivery truck, while screaming for others to evacuate. Her voice cracked as she relayed what just happened. By the time Miami-Dade officers spotted Juliana's car speeding away on Highway 826, they were ready. But Juliana was more than ready. As they boxed in her vehicle, she opened fire, shattering a patrol car window and striking one officer in the leg. The officers returned fire in a controlled volley. Juliana was fatally struck. The standoff ended as abruptly as it began. Her motive? Buried in a journal found in her apartment. Revenge. She blamed Cara for sabotaging her chances at promotion. Investigators later found her obsession had been festering for months. Cara survived, but the trauma lingers. What began as a routine night at the shipping floor ended in blood and disbelief. Downtown Denver had a pulse. Cluttered sidewalks, thumping bass lines from rooftop bars, and high-rise apartments brimming with weekend energy. On a March evening in 2024, officers were dispatched to a third-floor unit at the Linwood complex after neighbors reported shouting and slamming furniture. The call came in as a noise complaint. Maybe a fight. Maybe just another drunk college kid. Either way, nothing serious. Officers Jensen and O'Reilly knocked on the unit's door. It opened slowly. A young woman, no older than 19, stood before them. Her name, Emily Reyes. Her eyes were glassy. Her hands trembled slightly. She wasn't holding a drink. She was holding a revolver. Drop that now. Jensen barked. The words hung in the air like a wire pulled taut. In the same breath, Jensen and O'Reilly drew their weapons. Emily's lips twitched, maybe hesitation, maybe confusion. Her finger moved. 2 shots rang out, but they weren't hers. Jensen and O'Reilly's bullets hit the doorframe and floor, forcing Emily to recoil, her weapon falling from her grip. She didn't run. She just stood there, arms raised, whispering, "It was a prank." A prank. Emily was arrested without further resistance. Her parents later said she'd recently dropped out of school and had been spiraling mentally. She was released on bail, pending charges of illegal possession of a firearm. No one died, but 2 officers nearly made a life-or-death decision over what Emily thought was a joke. Deputy Tammy McClure had been with the Albany County Sheriff's Office for nearly a decade, a calm presence, a steady hand. She'd seen plenty of psychiatric calls, teens having breakdowns, adults refusing medication, families caught in crisis. On a breezy spring afternoon in upstate New York, she was dispatched to speak with Isaiah Collins, a 20-year-old man avoiding court-ordered psychiatric commitment. Tammy approached the quiet suburban street with caution, but not alarm. Isaiah stood near his mailbox, fidgeting. His eyes darted between Tammy and the nearby trees. She kept her voice calm, soothing, textbook, but she didn't see the blade tucked into his waistband. When she moved to detain him, Isaiah lunged forward, screaming incoherently, and plunged a knife into her shoulder. The pain was instant, sharp, white-hot. Tammy stumbled back, blood soaking through her sleeve. Her firearm was in reach, but she didn't use it. Instead, through sheer grit, she reached for her taser. Isaiah ran. Tammy gave chase. Wounded, bleeding, but focused. 15 seconds later, she tossed him near a garden fence. He collapsed, screaming. Backup arrived minutes later. Tammy spent weeks in recovery. Her refusal to shoot, even when her life was in danger, earned her the department's Courage Award. Isaiah was charged with attempted murder. But the questions linger. Could this have been avoided? What do you do when the person you're trying to help tries to kill you? Officer Julian Cross had pulled over hundreds of cars in his career. Speeding, expired tags, broken taillights. 99% of the time, it was a lecture, a ticket, maybe a warning. March 16th was supposed to be another routine stop. A silver sedan was doing 63 in a 45. He flicked on the lights, radioed in the plate, and approached the window. The glass was tinted. The driver didn't roll it down. Julian tapped the window. "Sir, roll your window down, please." Then, bang, a bullet sliced through the air, passing inches from Julian's face. He dove back, drew his firearm, and returned fire through the windshield. The car peeled away, tires screeching. Dispatch lit up as the chase began. The suspect, later identified as Marcus Bell, barreled down residential streets, blowing stop signs and fishtailing around corners. It lasted 15 minutes, sirens wailing behind him. It ended in a backyard near Garfield Park. Marcus tried to scale a fence. He didn't see the K-9 unit coming. The dog clamped onto his thigh. Marcus screamed and dropped the pistol. He was arrested and later sentenced to 48 years for attempted murder of a peace officer. Julian survived. Barely. His life spared by inches. Arden Fair Mall, Sacramento. A place for teenagers and families, where laughter and selfies fill the air. On April 4th, mall security was alerted to a man acting erratically near the food court. Jason Ruiz, mid-30s, reeking of alcohol, chatting up teenage girls and sipping from an open beer. Security confronted him. He laughed, shrugged, said he was just talking. But his behavior escalated. When asked to open his backpack, he refused. Then he reached inside. Seconds later, he pulled out a handgun and bolted toward the parking lot. Officers nearby responded instantly. A shootout erupted between parked SUVs and a row of shopping carts. Jason fired twice, missing both officers. They returned fire, hitting him in the leg. He collapsed near Planter. Jason survived and now faces multiple felony charges, including child endangerment, possession of a firearm by a felon, and assault on an officer. No shoppers were harmed. But for two officers, an Easter weekend shift turned into a firefight outside the pretzel stand. The call came in at 11:27 p.m. Gunshots at a low-end motel on Central Avenue. Room 109. Officers knocked. A woman answered. Leanne Brooks, 38, pale, jittery, pupils wide. She claimed her ex-boyfriend had fired the shots. She was shaking, crying, nervous. Something didn't sit right. One officer noticed a box of ammo half hidden in her open duffel. Another spotted loose pills beside a lamp. When asked to step outside, Leanne screamed, shoved the officer, and pulled a revolver from her waistband. She fired. The bullet missed the officer by inches, shattering a motel mirror. The second officer fired twice, striking Leanne in the torso. She collapsed onto the stained carpet. She survived. Toxicology later showed she had high levels of methamphetamine and opioids in her system. She now faces federal charges for drug trafficking and firearm possession during a felony. It was a humid afternoon outside Baton Rouge when Deputy Andre Thomas spotted a stalled SUV on the shoulder of a state highway. He slowed, flashed his lights, and approached cautiously. The driver, a man in his late 20s, Jared Owens, stepped out calmly, too calmly. Then he swung a rifle toward Andre's head. Andre moved like instinct, ducked, drew, and fired one shot to Jared's shoulder. The rifle clattered to the pavement. Jared screamed, "I was just testing you." Testing him. Jared was subdued and arrested. Officers found a GoPro in his glove box. He'd been recording the encounter. Jared was sentenced to 14 years for assault on a peace officer and possession of an unlicensed firearm. Andre suffered no injuries, but he'll never forget the moment when a roadside check nearly became his last. It was New Year's Day, 2017, when Officer Rochelle Simmons responded to a call about a man bothering customers outside a gas station on Dorchester Road. A minor nuisance call. Nothing urgent. She found him easily. Tyrone McNally, mid-40s, disheveled, pacing near the front door. Rochelle asked him to remove his hands from his jacket. He didn't. She asked again. He smiled, then drew a gun and fired point blank. Rochelle fell backward, blood pouring from her arm and neck. Her radio crackled as she whispered, "Tell my mother I love her." A bystander, a man named Eli, rushed over, cradled her head, and held her hand. Backup arrived within minutes. Rochelle survived. Barely. She endured 6 surgeries, months of rehab, and a metal plate in her shoulder. Rapid delivery. Tyrone was engaging for 35 with short attention spans. One moment it's routine. The next it's life or death. These officers didn't go looking for danger, but danger found them anyway. Hooked on true crime? Hit subscribe and stay tuned to Deadly Affairs.